Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I thought, given a new month and a new moon and all that kind of stuff, and the start of the school year, and where a lot of people think sort of the year begins, given back to school, back to work, summer's over, and stuff like that, it would be really good to check in with someone that specializes in this area. And so I have connected up with Ariane Saffron, who describes herself as a clairvoyant practitioner of the cosmic psychic arts. She's connecting the world with the otherworldly. Ariane, welcome to my show. How are you?
Thank you, Brian. I'm very good. I'm very good.
So tell me, what is a clairvoyant practitioner of cosmic psychic arts, please?
Fancy words. I'm always playing with the language to support communication. But essentially, I'm a very cosmic person in that I can see beyond the physical. And I can see beyond the physical in an astral sense, which means leaving your body and going to other dimensions. Or I've even left my body and just floated around Earth. So, and I also, included in that, have a lot of memories, which are really interesting. Like, I find psychic abilities and premonitions are actually memories. And
memories of what?
Memories of other lives, other dimensions. We are made of photons, and those photons contain information. And that information transcends all realities. It's an infinite connection with all realities beyond this third dimension.
Okay, hold on a second. So we're made of photons, and photons transcend other realities.
Yes, they're infinite.
What does that mean?
Chain of information. I think the science holographic resonance, which is the upgraded version of quantum physics, it's an evolved version of that, explains it best. And what that is that the universe and existence overall is holographic. So in that holographic sense, we are light and dark. We are, and also simultaneously living in other parallel realities. And it's holographic resonance teaches us that everything that we see in the minutia has a holographic perspective of it. So there's a reflection of it in another form, and that other form can mean other dimensions. It's very cosmic, and it's really big to comprehend. And I found in my journey shamanism, the sacred ancient practice of shamanism, describes it best.
What is shamanism?
So shamanism originally translated as those who can see in the dark. And within that, there's this knowing in shamanism. And if you meet shamans from around the world, and you meet indigenous people from around the world who've carried this wisdom through their ancestors, there's a long, long story lineage connected with shamanism. And shamanism is, like I said, literally means those who can see in the dark. So when we are communicating in the physical. We're using our minds, we're using our breath, we're using our hearts, we're using our experience and our knowledge. And in shamanism, you would include the invisible, which is the photons and the light, which we can't quite differentiate with our naked eye, but we can with other parts of our bodies, such as the pineal gland. And
such as the what gland?
Pineal gland.
What's the pineal gland?
So the pineal gland is a part of our endocrine system. And it's a gland in our body that absorbs light. It's in our brain, it's in the center of our brain. It absorbs light and photons the same way that our eyes do. But because it's centered in the core of our brain, it's not having the same experience as our eyes are. Like our eyes are experiencing that this laptop is solid, whereas our pineal is only seeing the photons.
Is this idea of a third eye that yoga people talk about?
Exactly. This is well known in many cultures, not just yogic cultures. I've had the honor of meeting many different people on a spiritual journey. Shaman, new awakened people that are very cosmic and galactic. community friends from holistic places or crystal shops such as this nature. And there are so many practices, ancient practices that speak of the third eye and in different ways, including ancient Egypt, which is really, really popular in the awakening community. I find the community as a globe, they really love the Egyptian culture because it seems to have a very stable perspective on the sacred arts, such as shamanism, or acknowledging things like the pineal gland and its function. Now, holographic resonance is today's science, and for me, science, quantum physics, was the first avenue, really explains all of this. I had the honor when I was first experiencing these two completely different worlds. One is just the photons and the light, and the other is the physical. And so I was having experiences where they were constantly crossing over. And through those experiences, I first went for science. I needed science to explain things to me. I've always really respected science. And in science, I think the first book I read actually was called The Source Field Investigation. It's an incredible book by an investigative writer named David Wilcox. And this was before 2012. The whole premise for the book included the Mayan cosmology of the end of the world, which was actually not necessarily the end of the world. It wasn't that literal. It was a rebirthing of the world into higher consciousness. And so in this book, he goes through all this proof that scientists have gathered in their different tests and their different ways, such as the man who invented the lie detector machine. He had some really interesting studies that prove that there's this source field. So the source field is a description of the invisible photons, that energy outside of what we're comfortable and normal with. And this is his description of it as I was describing the quantum or cosmic field. And so there's this string of knowledge connecting all of us. There's a science actually called quantum string theory that talks about this. And my research shows that many scientists don't like quantum string theory, but as a seer, I feel it's something that resonates with me so much of how things connect in the invisible space. So in the source field investigation, the first chapter is this description of the man who invented the lie detector machine. And I can't remember exactly, so I'm paraphrasing. This was actually years ago that I read it, but this was an aha moment for me to trust what I was experiencing. There's a lot of trust building, and science helped me with that. And so what had happened is I think he poured hot tea or hot coffee into a plant, and the machine sensed emotion from the plant when this happened. And that just opened his mind to more studies. And he was finding, like, he would take a leaf off the plant and put it in the garbage, and he would feel emotion from the plant that was still potted as well as the leaf. And the lie detector machine that was sensing emotions and the vibration of energy was detecting all of this. That's a really interesting book. And there's more studies further on that talked about the photons. And this is also really supportive to help me personally acknowledge a greater truth. And
sounds absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
You've gotten into a really interesting career, I guess.
Yeah, and shamanism describes it without the science. The deeper I went into this knowledge is when I started finding spirit and what in the indigenous cultures of the land where I am call the creator, a creator spirit. And that's when I started tapping more into that everything around has a source field. It's part of the source field. It has a light, it has an energy, it has a shape, and it has a purpose. So you can see behind me, there's some art here.
Yes.
Okay, so this would be a really accurate description of some of the energy I would see around a plant or a person or a place. This is a very specific energy. I go into shamanic journeys where I'm able to leave my body, and I go to other dimensions, and I communicate with other beings. The popular terminology is astral traveling. And
astral traveling.
Yes, which is
Okay.
also science behind this.
Well, Ariane, just a second. We're going to have to take a break for a message. We're going to come right back with Ariane Saffron, a clairvoyant practitioner of the cosmic psychic arts, and find out, what she does and how she sort of does this for people and what she does for people. So stay with us, and we're going to come back with more in just a minute. Well, welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're chatting tonight with Ariane Saffron, who is a clairvoyant practitioner of the cosmic psychic arts. And it almost sounds like Star Wars and the Force be with you that you've been describing. Sounds kind of interesting. Ariane, how did you ever get into this?
I was actually born this way. I can remember vivid experiences, even as a young child, connecting with different beings. And then in my teen years, it got really intense for me, and I started kind of shut down a little bit. This is really common for people who are connected psychically. They shut down because there's so much dialogue that's low vibration and about surrounding people who have psychic abilities, which I don't want to use that low vibration dialogue, but I shut down a little bit. And as I got older and I had children, it intensified. My children were having dreams. My children were having experiences. I was seeing more and more things and trying my darndest to ignore it and just live a semi-normal life. Then I got sick. I got very sick. I was crippled for over a year. I lost the ability to use my hands, my arms, my feet. I lost the ability of many things to live. And I was also in the process of nursing my youngest daughter, which I had to stop. This is a very dark time in the shamanic world we call dark night of the soul. Because during this time, I was not able to control my abilities. I was fly out of my body. I couldn't get back in. I was constantly in and out of this reality. And I had to make a choice to come back in. And so I called forward people that resonated with me, different healers, a beautiful woman named Teresa Palomar, who specializes in metaphysics and the metaphysical, an Ojibwe elder shaman named Del Haskell, who also helped me with grounding perspective and teaching me meditation methods, and a medicine woman named Linda Rose Black River, who provided sacred land where I could practice shamanism and be in nature and heal. So through that process, I started painting what I was seeing because I didn't know how to describe it. In the shamanic world, we say like your throat chakra is shut down or your voice is shut down. And my voice was shut down. So I started using art to communicate. And at this time, my hands were very crippled and in a lot of pain. I had to get carried.
I'm sorry, what caused this illness?
So in human terms and medical terms, it's genetic arthritis. But shamanism taught me that what it actually is it's part of the component of being a planetary empath. And a planetary empath meaning that you can feel the rocks, the plants, the air, and the people. You can feel all components of what is sacred in Earth Gaia. And so it was the art and these practices that I've learned, as well as connecting with these higher beings, that I was transcending all of this information into my physical body, into this present now. And it gave me the ability to use my hands again. So no medication, just holistic healing, natural healing, connecting with sacred earth medicine, shamanism. The earth knows this information, so it's easy to connect with them and not easy, but there's a beautiful harmony that can happen through this. And then the art is how I would communicate. Through this process, I would meet different aspects of myself from other dimensions. I had mentioned earlier that part of my cosmic experiences is going to other dimensions. So I started painting them. And I would start painting and sketching and communicating with all these other dimensions and beings that I would see in all these light codes. And so that has evolved into now I paint other people and how I see them. Because it's not limited to my experience. I can sit and look at a picture of somebody and go through different shamanic psychic connection with them, and I can paint them how I see them cosmically. And what is really beautiful is that it's really resonating with a lot of people. I've done probably 2 to 3 paintings every 6 to 8 weeks for the past 3 years, which in the art community is just unheard of. So that's the heart of my business. That's the soul of my business and my service.
Is doing these paintings of people and what you see.
Yes, and I have many on my website and on my Instagram page. I'm very, integrity is a part of my medicine, and so are strong ethics. So
these are these cosmic cosmic oracle portraits you talk about.
You're that person's skin away, their story away. This is how their light would look. And so it's, and I have permission from every single person that I'm sharing their painting to have that painting there. I'm not just sharing it for the sake of sharing. I do have permission, which is a very...
And what does someone find by doing these paintings?
Well, there's a lot of people out there like me. More and more are like me. There's a lot of amazing healers online that are gathering these people. And even in the last year, which I call the homeostasis and the isolation, more and more people are saying, yeah, that's happening to me too. Or yes, I'm connecting with my cosmic family. Or yes, I'm connecting with that I'm from another dimension. I have memories from another lifetime. And so more and more people are connecting with this. And what my work does is, it's a phenomenon called light codes or sacred geometry. So they're actually like a medical, cosmic medical healing for that person. So it can help to change the photons. The photons in our bodies react to these. They are aware of this knowledge. They're aware of this information. So they respond to it. They reflect it. And it starts shifting the information in your own body. So science shows that we have a thin layer of photons next to all of our DNA. They're parallel, side by side, like 2 hair strands. And so there's an exact replica of our DNA in our body through the photons. And so what happens is, by being around this art, which is a cosmic information, I'm just a channel for it. I'm a conduit for it. I take no credit. I'm shocked every time. But because these photons recognize this knowledge, recognize this information, they absorb it, and then they communicate with our natural DNA, our physical DNA, and the physical DNA starts responding to those photons. There's a lot of science surrounding water, which I think is a beautiful link to understand this. There's a doctor named Dr. Iamoto. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He's passed, but he has proven through tests that water can change shape and change form according to the information we give it. And there's a famous test where you put boiled rice, so the water is in the rice, and you do 1 jar with I hate you on it and 1 jar with I love you on it. And so you can find this all over YouTube. So many people have done this test to try to see if it's accurate or not. And there's so many people have done it. And so there's a lot of experimenting to witness. And I'm even going to be doing that with my kids, just to prove to them that the language we use and the thoughts that we use impact the quality of our life. So the rice that had I hate you, within very quickly starts rotting and turning moldy and changing shape. Whereas the rice that says I love you stays, I would say, near edible looking for at least a month or more. And Dr. Emoto's science takes us even into actual water. And he does under a microscope, and it looks like these beautiful snowflakes when positive, good energy is put into it. And even these forms can be compared to a snowflake. I think that's another way where we can relate to how it's a part of the electric universe around us.
Fantastic. You do quantum holographic Reiki sessions. What's that?
So quantum holographic Reiki is a modality that includes ancient practices that I've learned through leaving my body and channeling other dimensions and other beings. Beings such as archangels or ascended masters or myself from other dimensions, and I tap into my own memories. And then I also apply the shamanism to bring it and ground it in. So there's like three layers. One is the science. The grounding layer is shamanic practices. The in-between bridge layer is the science. And the upper layer is the cosmic. And so I blend the three of them to support people in bringing that higher dimension quality in their physical now. What's really interesting about this is actually behind me. Again, this is the first geometry. It's a geometry science-based protocol. And this is the first geometry in it. And the shape in the center is actually called the dodecahedron. The dodecahedron is the same shape as the holographic, invisible electric universe in between us. So that's how it becomes a bridge for the unknown and the subtle invisibility. That's truth in between us. And so I'm a Reiki master, and so, other modalities as well. I love to study spirit science. And so the founder of Reiki, Mikao Utsui, he literally showed up in my home, took my attunement out. Attunement is the word for aligning your body's brainwave with the higher knowledge or the light knowledge of the cosmos. And so he took that attunement out, put his own in. He explained to me that what I'm bringing forward is the Reiki of the fifth dimension. And
the Reiki of the fifth dimension.
The Reiki of the fifth dimension. So the fifth dimension is a space where we recognize everything that is happening and going wrong with the world, but we're able to hold our space of compassion and see it as a whole. And in that whole, you see it as a cycle. And you're able to hold your space and hold your light for humanity as they go through a cycle. It's a higher.
Well, it's interesting because one of the reasons why I wanted to reach out to you is that you made a posting about your brain on trauma. And you talk about that your brain on trauma is suspicious and untrusting, negative and pessimistic, addictive, self-sabotaging, scattered and distracted, demotivated and drained of energy, self-critical, judgmental of yourself and others, and emotionally cut off.
Yes.
Sounds pretty bad, and frankly sounds appropriate and correct. And then what you said is that that you had some solutions, and that love is one of the solutions, that you got to shine your love on these trauma responses. And you talked about things like eye contact, breathing, venting, singing, drumming, earthing. What is earthing? Amazing hugs, jumpstart your happy branch of the vagus nerves. It all sounded kind of interesting. So
well, let's talk about it.
Okay, please do.
Okay, so all those descriptions of the brain trauma, I don't actually have all those descriptions, but I've spoken with many people or friends and dear people in my life who hold different pieces of that. So I'm able to recognize that. I don't, like, if you have three of those symptoms, three is a beautiful number. I love triangles. If you have three of those symptoms, then it's something to consider that you need to shine love on them. I would say I had more of the symptoms when I was going through the dark night of my soul, dark night of the soul, which I had mentioned earlier, when I was very ill. I was in toxic relationships. Everything was toxic around me. I was also awakening to big truths in the world that were really hard to manage. And like many people who have psychic abilities and light beings, I'm not connected with my family. A lot of us are alone. And so there's that part of healing is to reform the circle. The circle is the ancient practice of all cultures before colonialism, essentially. And so all indigenous cultures and pagan cultures and all the different ancient cultures before colonialism do all of their healing and gathering in a circle format. And so part as an awakened being, I had to find a way to create a circle. But I found that dipping into that circle, we were all kind of awakening and healing, but then the list that you just ran off, we all had little symptoms of those. And it's like, you have your good intentions and then you have your shadow knocking heads. And at the end of the day, you're responsible for yourself. So I had to look at those deep things. And again, it was shamanism and understanding ancient medicines and practices that are really connected with the natural cycle of the earth. Like how leaves fall from a tree to fertilize the soil. And so through that and all these different practices, I was able to become my witness. And there's also a deep decision that I don't want to experience those brain traumas. I don't want to experience those things. You know, I'm making a conscious decision to co-create and be the creator of a happy life. And one of the things, and a lot of my friends encourage this of me as well, my really deep soul sisters and soul brother friends, it's like, there reaches a point where you know your story, you know your pattern, you witness these things and how they impact the quality of your life. And you just have to sit back and start shining love at that and appreciate, not initially, but appreciate that it was your teacher, that it helped you to witness something that was uncomfortable, but it's not going to impact your life anymore because you have other things that are wonderful. And that's where the vagus nerve comes in. The vagus nerve is actually a really cool nerve. It's responsible for your flight or flight. So the vagus nerve, it branches down your neck and goes either to the front or the back. When it branches to the back, that's the flight or flight. That's the shadow. Your skin's kind of crawling. You're not sure if you trust people, like my spidey senses are up. And then one of the ways, and what you want to do is you want to bring that vagus branch back to the front, because it can't be one or the other. It can only be one at a time. And one of the ways to restabilize that vagus nerve is drumming, earthing, which earthing is actually walking barefoot in the earth.
On the earth.
Yeah.
This is, you know, this is absolutely fascinating. I could chat with you forever, but I'm going to have to cut you off. I apologize. Okay. Ariane Saffron, who is a clairvoyant practitioner of the cosmic psychic arts. This has been fascinating. If people want to reach out to you and access some of your services, how do they do that?
The easiest way is my website, www.arianesaffron.com. It's ARIANESAFFRON.com. I post most of my stuff on Instagram, so you can find me there. There are links on my website.
Well, this has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Ryan. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.